Hey guys, how you going? We're going to take a look at a game of Infinity. Alright, Nomads against Haqqislam. I'm playing the Haqqislam this game against Jono with the Nomads. We're doing Power Pack. That is the mission where, you might have seen it in one of my earlier bat reps, you've got your deployment zone split into two squares on either corner of the table side. So is your opponent. So it's like a 16-inch up, but 12-inch from the left-hand and right-hand sides squares, but that can be increased by forward deployment and obviously infiltration. One interesting thing we found out, and just correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you could actually have your HVT like basically at your table edge, because if it's more than 4 inches away from your deployment zone, normally it has to be away from the strip, but because you've got two squares and there's a gap in between, you can put your HVT down in the middle, close to your side, which is quite interesting. Of course, running the Savagelord, which is my nickname for the Maghriba guard. I just like to call mine the Savagelord because I did a video a while back about Guild Ball, and I made some funny comments during the video, and somebody called me the Savagelord, so I've changed the name over. Alright, so for this one, I have lost the roll, and my opponent's picked first turn, which I believe is a big mistake. With Power Pack, you're much more likely to win if you go second, because it's easier to move a guy in to contest any objective and keep yours free in the last turn. And also with the consoles, if you're wanting to take them back, reclaim them, last turn is much better for that. So going into this game with a big advantage because of that. Let's have a look at the deployment zones. Now this gets a bit easier because what we can do is we could just take one picture of each corner. So this is my right hand side, looking from the right hand side of the table. Basically the corner of the table is here. Like there, I've just drawn it, like that's the corner on my right, on that side. But you can see here, flash pulse bot. This HVT model is representing a Ghazi Motiwa because I left one of them at home. The other Ghazi is here. There's a Nafatun light flamer. There's the Krakot Renegade with SMG. A Farzan forward observer on the building. My opponent has infiltrated a camo marker here. I should also point out that this mission includes a saturation zone. We forgot about the saturation zone for almost the entire game, and when we got to the last turn, we decided just to leave it out of play because we'd just messed it up so badly. Although when you play this game officially in ITS, you should be using a saturation zone. Left-hand side, this is the big boy, so move the camera out of the way. The Savagelord. Then we've got a Hunzukut prone up the top of the building so she can lob grenades more effectively with an extra 4 inches of deploy. Well, she's got infiltration, so she can go up there. Barid Kelahaka, a Warcore. There's another Ghazi Motiwa and another Ghazi Motiwa. We've got the Nafatun there. There's an engineer, just in case the Savagelord needs some help. The Nafatun here is the lieutenant, and then there's a baggage bot Camille and a Lasik with viral sniper there, and my HVT is very safely tucked away next to my table edge on that side. My opponent is running Nomads with a 10 order single combat group list. You got your interventor back here, who's the lieutenant, Daktari in case she gets damaged. Then, let's make this a bit smaller. Got a Mobile Brigada with HMG and a Kriza Borzak with a Mark 12 and submachine gun. Quite likes that profile. On the other side, he's done the same thing as me with putting his HVT in the middle, but there's the Moran Forward Observer with one Crazy Koala here and one up the top of the building. Lupe Balboa, which is very strange to see her outside of Corregidor, but there you go. Camera marker back here, which we know is an intruder sniper. There's a camera marker here, which is a 0 something or other, and that is the helper bot for the Daktari in case the intruder gets nailed. So first turn, what my opponent's doing here, as you can see from his hands in the photo, is he's trying to move around here with a bandit, which was the camera marker close to my deployment zone. So let's see what happens with that. I've got a lot of defense, as you can see. There's the Krakot, the Ghazi, the Nafatun, and another Ghazi. So although they're all lined up for a shotgun hit, well, it looks like they are, but in reality, because this model is actually prone, he's either got to put one template there and get those two, or one template there and get these two. My understanding is that if you make a short skill, you have to pick a point during that movement to make all of your ballistical attacks. You can't make one shotgun attack at the start and one shotgun shotgun attack partway through. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how that's played. So the bandit comes around. He gets hit by a flash pulse. The Krakot tries to go for a engage. This Ghazi here fires his chain rifle. This Nafatun, I believe, goes for pistol or something like that, or light shotgun. This Ghazi here decides to dodge, although that's a mistake. What you should be doing here is using the jammer, because the jammer actually works as a face-to-face roll against the shotgun blast, so I forgot about that. What happens though is that, although I haven't taken a photo of it, the bandit is destroyed by the chain rifle, and everybody manages to get off scot-free except for the Nafatun, who is destroyed. So not the most successful bandit that I've ever seen. Elsewhere, Zero moving out towards one of the consoles here, and moving past the console. What he's going to be trying to do is, oh, I've made this thing full screen. There we go. What he's going to be trying to do is he's going to move around here and place a mine and a repeater, or actually not a mine and an E-mauler, which is going to be even more effective, because the E-mauler, if it actually sprays and hits the tank, then that basically puts the tank out of the game until the engineer can actually come down the steps. So it's not terrible. Okay, so here it is here. You can see the angle. Basically puts out a E-mauler initially, so that when the repeater shows up and the intruder starts going after the tank, that's going to mean that the tank, if it resets against the Overlord attempt, the E-mauler is going to go off on it, if you guys can picture that. So putting down the repeater, this camera marker is just being taken off the table because that's where the Zero was. And then if we line that up, this model here, this marker here is the... so this is the E-mauler, and this is the repeater here. But what I want to bring our attention to is this building. So right here we've got a walker which can't see him, but further up the stairs, at around about this location here behind the obstacle, is the Barid. So initially what's going to happen is that the intruder's going to have to get, not the intruder, the interventor's going to have to get rid of the Barid first, even though the breeder has lightning, and then go and hack the tank. So what goes on here is that the interventor, who's the lieutenant, is not a killer hacking interventor. It's just like a hacking device plus, and I think it's got sucker punches an upgrade or something like that. So she has a go at it, and doesn't actually kill the Barid in the first attempt. And then on her final attempt, the Barid actually succeeds in getting the hit on her, and she dies. So that's a horrible first turn outcome, because it's going to mean that we know that he's going to be in Lost Lieutenant the following turn, which is awful. So game going very well for Haqqislam at this point, and you can see our victorious Barid gloating in the shadows. So impetuous movement is taking our Ghazi Motiwa to here. We want to carefully come around the side to force the E-mauler to go off, basically, and throw a chain rifle through the lot of them. So that's what he attempts to do. Importantly, we're moving up with another one, but importantly, the Hunzakut can also lob a Specfire grenade down on top of the repeater, and comically, the blast marker is going to show up here, and it's going to clip the E-mauler and the Zero, if you guys can picture that. So what he's going to be doing too is he's going to be reviving his interventor with the Daktari, but we need to make sure that that's cleared out before the Savagelord can start moving. So there's the Hunskut there, lobbing the grenade down. The Zero's been isolated now by the Ghazi Motiwa, which is what happened in the previous photo. So that this was the isolation move, but he's not too worried about being isolated right now. So the grenade goes down. He manages to not dodge the grenade. The grenade does not manage to remove the repeater, but it does crack open the E-mauler, so that frees up the tank to some extent. So here comes the Ghazi Motiwa. You can see him poking up around the corner and just trying to lay waste to our friend the Zero. Elsewhere on the table, we've got a Rajik showing up with his Spitfire, moving around this way. And what he's going to be trying to do is try and get to a point where he can attack the Kriza Borzak. What happens though, and this is luck sort of shifting back in the other direction, is that the Krizaborak with Fatality just nails me with the submachine gun, gets rid of my Dogged, and the Rajik basically wastes 3 orders getting nothing done except dying. So the Krakot has a go at it. The Krakot starts moving across the table to face the same target, but gets hit by this guy, the Intruder, which I'd forgotten about. So losing a Rajik and a Krakot and wasting orders, it's almost as bad as losing your lieutenant by trying to hack something. So with the last few orders, I'm moving the Savagelord out here, and the reason I'm doing this is because I know that he's going to be in Lost Lieutenant next turn. He can't sustain a lot of fire into it, and if he has one attempt with a Brigada, one attempt with a Krizaborak, I can just guts back into cover. But putting him here gives me a better angle to either kill the Intruder or at least slow him down from attacking. So you can see where the Intruder is right there. I'll move this camera. So he's circled there. So the tank could come out here and then fire through the alleyway at the Intruder. Unfortunately, he passes 4 armor saves. The first time I've ever seen that. All 4 HMG shots hit and beat the Intruder's snipe attempt, and the Intruder rolls 4 saves. To be fair, he's got +3 armor and +3 for cover as well, but to get them all going 10 or more on 4 dice is pretty massive. So the Intruder uses guts to go back into cover there. Okay, and you can see our victorious Ghazi now getting rid of the 0, moves through here just into a position where he can use his jammer on the Moran. And I've got a Warcore able to watch out for anybody on the side there. So looking good, looking good. On this part of the field, you can see where everyone is. So the tag is able to get a line across here, which is going to be able to face off against the Mobile Brigada, but he's got also a very subtle line through the back door here, just for that flank in case the Ghazi is not able to hold it. So first thing that the Nomads do is they bring back the Interventor to life with an irregular order from the Daktari. That's a success. And then the Moran moves around here, but then takes that order back. He decides not to do that after all because he realizes he's going to get chain rifled, so he decides not to do that. Instead, we're bringing on a Tomcat who forces a change face by the Warcore, who's pictured in this photo in the middle here. But he's out of range of this guy because this is not equivalent to 8 inches. So he's in just the right sweet spot, just has to avoid all of the jammers. So what he can do is he can just carefully move to the, so he touches this particular wall and shoot the Ghazi in the back. Ghazi manages to, I think, survive this. The Warcore does not manage to flash pulse him. And I think we end up being out of range with the other Ghazi Motiwa with the jammer. But what he's managed to do is he's managed to complete Sabotage, which is his classified. So that gets him a tie-breaking point there, quite important. The Ghazi Motiwa, though, successfully jammers him when he attempts to do that, so at least we won't see any more action from this particular drop trooper. The Ghazi Motiwa on my side moves out. He doesn't have much of a turn, by the way, because he's lost lieutenant. So back to my turn. Ghazi Motiwa moves out, gets hit by an Intruder and gets killed. The Intruder, though, facing off against the tank. Tank now shooting the Intruder and does manage to destroy him after a good sustained attempt. He has to actually keep on coming, though, because the first attempt doesn't work. So he keeps on coming until he gets around to this side of the building, just to come around the clock, basically, into the battlefield. There was a Tomcat. Where is he? The Tomcat's here, but there was a very slight angle along here, so the tank could shoot him on the way over there, if you guys can picture that. So Intruder is destroyed, as you can see from the Savagelord in the distance. Then what we're doing is we're putting him into Suppression Fire. So with Suppression Fire, I use this little dice here to show a 3, to remind us that he can shoot 3 times. It's going to mean that he's covering this angle along here for the Krizaborzak. He's covering this angle along here for the Mobile Brigada. And he's covering this angle along here just in case my opponent wants to bring in any troops to capture consoles. And this model is the data tracker. So I'm setting up for the final turn, where I'll actually move on to this objective here and basically control it at the end of the game and win quite a lot of points that way. Lastly, the Lasik moving out, and we're going to reposition the Lasik sniper so that it's here. Note that the tank is positioned at this spot there, so the Lasik helps me to slow down the rate of fire that the tank's going to suffer. Plus, the viral rifle could be quite effective against the Kriza Borak, which will be at long range, and the Mobile Brigada, which won't be able to beat the Mimetism. So hopefully a well-positioned sniper at this point. Unfortunately, though, Mobile Brigada does come out in this last Nomad turn and is lucky enough to beat the Lasik anyway. Just rolls straight up better dice and beats him. So what this allows him to do is to move around to attack Mr. Suppression Fire here. And to do that, though, he has to come around out of cover to get the right angle. And with the first shootout here, manages to tank both hits from the tag. Want to remind you guys, we're again not playing with the saturation zone. Had we remembered it, this game would be quite different, because in these particular turns, all of the hails of bullets that are going back and forward are more favorable to the tank, because the tank likes it when it's not having to make as many armor saves, if you guys follow me. But even though he's down to 2 bursts for the suppression fire, he's still negating like a -3 penalty. So Kriza moves to the corner, shooting at the tank, and does manage to get a crit in the first volley, but it's having to continually move along here to get into range, because it wants to get into a point where the submachine gun can get AP down. So moving along here, some of these shootouts are won by the tank. So the Kriza Borzak does take a wound eventually, but after like 4 orders consecutively stomping along, all guns blazing into the barrage of firefighting, he finally decides to do a coordinated order where the Kriza Borzak moves up, and the Moran stands up as well, and the Lupe Bilbao stands up, and I have to divert all of my suppression fire shooting at Lupe because she's got a Panzerfaust. So what ends up happening is that the Kriza Borzak at half burst does manage to get another hit onto my tank, but the tank does manage to fend everybody else off. This, I believe, did include the Mobile Brigada, but with armor 11, you know, you're generally tanking most hits. So it comes down to the wire. He's got 1 order left at the end where he tries to go for it. He's reduced me to 2 wounds and ends up putting the Kriza into close combat just to tie me up a bit. But the tank actually survives to this end of the turn with having only taken 2 wounds. Just managed to pass quite a lot of armor saves there, and to be fair, armor 11 is pretty good. Okay, so the final turn, all I've got to do is either contest his objective or capture one of the consoles. That's really all I need to do. So initially, we're moving out with the Warcore and trying to, I think so what I decided to do, I decided to restrain the Gaziwatiwa so I could move it back the other way. Lupe's out of ammunition with her Panzerfaust now because she's shooting off at various different people. But yeah, the other Ghazi on the other side of the table. So instead of actually using the Impetuous, I restrained it and moved the Ghazi back down the stairs, lobbing a smoke grenade, which fails with the first attempt, but I've got an extra regular order. So she puts it in there. And then that allows me to move out for this objective. The Moran is blinded by a flash pulse, I think, from the Warcore, or killed by something. I can't quite remember what even happened this game. Honestly, I can't. But what I can eventually do is get to a point where the engineer is able to move up through the smoke cloud. So that's what's going on there. The Mobile Brigada doesn't have line of sight. It's just blocked off by the building. Lupe doesn't have the quite angle across this little ledge here, so that's the tactic essentially. So engineer moving down the stairs, she's got a few orders in group 1, so moves over there and successfully presses the button on the console to win the game effectively. So yeah, pretty narrow though. If I had failed a lot of smoke checks with the guys in Watiwa, or had things worked out differently and the tag had died and the Kriza Borak could have protected the objectives, then that wouldn't have happened. The tank, though, because I've got orders left, attacks in close combat since there's nothing to lose, wins the combat and beats the Nomad fighter here, and then makes a break for it. Moves all the way over to the objective, on the way getting shot by the Mobile Brigada, I think, maybe not the Moran, but one of his other troopers. Can't remember quite what happened, but moving just straight into the objective, but unfortunately getting hit by the Brigada and dying. So had that not happened, I would have won by a massive margin, but losing the tank here. I think his interventor even came into play at some point, moving past the repeater, but I managed to shrug off the hack. Or did it go around the other way? I think I didn't get hit by the bullets, but the hack took over the tank at the end of the game. Either way, a bit of a fun one. Maybe a bit one-sided because of what happened in that first turn, but I don't think my opponent should have even chosen to take the first turn, having won the dice roll. This Nomads list would have been a lot harder to beat if he was going second, and if he was setting up suppression fire. So then I would have had to use a lot of smoke grenades, and the intruder would have been there, and it would have been a lot more difficult to win this if I'd been trying to do the damage myself, because this is more of a defensive list with the jammers and the tank than it is offensive. Cool, guys. Hope you guys liked this one. I'm going to be posting another that rep very soon featuring Aleph against another Aleph army, so stay tuned for that one.